Something doesn't seem quite right here. Or does it? No, this is the Rimpact Chain Damper. A product that's been getting a lot of hype recently, and one that they kindly sent me to test. So I figured I'd share a little bit about the details, what it does, how it works, and how it performs, most importantly. Stay tuned to find out in this review on loamwolf.com. Let's go. So, why would you want your chain to be damp? Well, this is a damper, not a dampener, as in it doesn't make your chain wet. It's designed to take the energy out of the chain system as it flails and overall just quieten down your ride, reduce the feeling of vibration through your feet, and generally improve your overall suspension performance to give you that chainless feeling. It's been well documented that there's been some, really heroic downhill runs on the World Cup circuit where riders have lost their chain early on in the trail and then have ended up still doing really well when it comes to the finish line. Because ultimately, the chain is having a negative effect on your overall suspension performance. It adds vibration, it can lead to, reduced reaction time of the rear end from moving, which is not something that this solves, of course. And just generally, it can create extra feedback through the rider's feet. And generally, any feedback that a rider or a racer is getting is going to be reducing the overall comfort, increasing the amount of fatigue, and just generally reducing the maximum performance that a rider is able to achieve. So Rimpact set about designing the chain damper to try and offset that and to, just generally improve the overall performance of the mountain bike. How does it work? So it's got some springs and elastomers inside, and basically it allows the outer chainring part to rotate and independently of your cranks. It only rotates a certain number of degrees before it fully engages and bottoms out, and as it's moving, you've got the combination of the springs and elastomers allowing that movement but also removing some of the energy from that movement, meaning that as the chain is flapping around as you're going down a descent, the energy is captured in a device and dissipated and prevents it from overall making its way into your feet and creating that vibration. As you pedal, it then will fully compress those springs, bottom out on the elastomers, and then start transferring your pedal force to the rear end. It does mean that there is a slight delay, but then you do also get almost an overrun feeling from the bike, just a small amount as those springs then unwind, meaning that you are ultimately, you store the energy from your first pedal stroke into those springs, and then you should get it back when you stop pedaling, meaning that you're not overall losing out on the pedaling efficiency when you're pedaling hard enough to bottom out the springs. What I have found is that when you're pedaling really softly, when you first get on the bike, say you're on a flat road, you do feel like the springs engage and then disengage, and you almost feel like you're pedaling even more in squares than you normally would be, which is certainly a really interesting feeling and certainly something I wasn't very fond of until I got the chain damper out onto the trail and got used to it, and very quickly it just fades into the background when you're pedaling up and doesn't become a problem, but certainly an interesting thing to start with. Rimpact's charging 279 British pounds for the chain damper. It weighs 240 grams, and it's certainly not a product that is going to be for absolutely everyone. Obviously, it's adding, 100, 120, 150 grams. To that point, it's much more expensive than your standard chain ring, but certainly for riders, especially on, I'd say, designs where the chain ends up flailing around excessively, more so, I would say maybe your high pivot machines are going to be less prone to getting the ultimate benefit out of it, since the chain isn't able to flail around so much in between the upper idler wheel and the crank. But certainly on a design like this nollie, where under hard compressions you see the chain flapping around a huge amount, it did just help to take some of the energy out of the equation and make for a much more quiet and muted feeling under the feet, which added further to the already very traction rich and comfortable feeling rear end on the nollie, and actually ended up making me feel like I needed to add on extra compression damping just to, I guess, get the most out of the overall system. But what I do think that means is that there is something happening there where your chain tension that can be induced through the growing rear end as you compress the bike suspension and what would widely be considered as pedal kickback maybe isn't having quite as much of an effect in giving you some support under those compressive loads. So clearly the Rimpact Chain Damper is doing something to make me feel like I need to add, or at least can add, extra compression damping without reducing comfort. Means that it's definitely doing something. And I mean, the results speak for themselves. Out on the trail, it does just lead to a much more muted feeling in the rear end. And once you get over the initial interesting feeling that the chain damper provides when you're pedaling it, it really just becomes a product that I've been very fond of using, and certainly something that has helped to improve especially the descending capabilities, not so much the climbing capabilities, but definitely the descending capabilities of this Nolly Chill Coating 155. So my take on it is that it's definitely doing something positive. It's not a product that absolutely every rider needs to go out and order right now, but if you're a rider that's looking for a little bit more rear end comfort to get a little bit of that chainless feeling, and you're happy spending £279 and adding that little bit of weight to probably the least important part of your bike, then for sure the Rimpact Chain Damper is a very interesting option. I'm going to be looking to get in an O-Chain and hopefully the Williams Racing Products Center Hub to do a comparison review in the future. So if that's something that you think you're going to be interested in checking out, and I'll go into a lot more detail on the overall performance on those, and leave a comment below, and we'll try and make that happen. Also, maybe reach out to O-Chain and Williams Racing Products for us and let them know that's something that you're keen to see. And for now, thank you so much for watching. Please hit the article in the description below to check out a little bit more of the text, and also hit our members only area to become a Loam Wolf Pack member and to get access to a bunch of different perks, and also get entered to test some product for us and get to keep it yourselves. Maybe you could be the next person to test something like the Rimpact Chain Damper. Thank you so much for watching. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out future videos. I hope to catch you out on the trails.